Okay, hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about season 2 of Hulu's TV show, The Bear. Now I'm not going to break down each episode, but I'm going to talk about the show overall and talk about stuff that I liked or didn't like. Quick disclaimer for this video. This is going to be part 1 of my thoughts on season 2 of The Bear. I'm going to make a second part to this video because I have a lot of thoughts about this show and I don't want this video to be too long. So in part 1 or this video, I'm going to be talking about the writing / the dialogue and then the cinematography and episode 6, because episode 6 is crazy and I just feel like it deserves its own kind of section in the video. So yeah. And then part 2 is just going to be my thoughts on the characters and their relationships and ships and romance and whatnot. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. Okay, back to the video. The first thing that I want to talk about is the writing and the dialogue. So as for the writing and dialogue, I think what I and other people really love about this show is that it feels real. Like, the dialogue feels realistic and it feels like real conversations that real people are having, because sometimes in shows, dialogue can feel almost too put together and too grammatically correct. But in real life, people don't always talk like that. People don't always talk grammatically correct. Sometimes we use slang or we speak in broken sentences. And I think that this adds more depth to the dialogue. So, for example, in this show, there's like an excessive amount of cursing, and other people might disagree with what I'm about to say, but I think that, or I don't mind the excessive cursing in the show because, again, real people actually talk like this. And it's almost satisfying in a way to listen to them curse so much, because this show kind of speaks to real people, so you're sort of able to live vicariously through the characters. So when Carmi, for example, screams the F word every 2 seconds, you feel it too, and you're able to kind of release your own frustrations through the character. And what I also really loved about the show is in this season we get to learn more about the characters, and not just the main characters, but the supporting cast as well. And none of the characters are underwritten or one layered. Like, I think that generally when you're watching a television show, you're supposed to only empathize with the main characters. But with this show, because the characters are written so well, you're able to empathize with every character, even if we barely know anything about that character. For example, in this season, Tina and Ibra, they take this class to kind of update their certifications, and Tina, she's having a great time. Like, she's making new friends and she's having fun, you know? But Ibra, he, however, has a hard time adjusting to the new changes, and I found myself empathizing with him and feeling sad for him because, you know, he's worked at the original restaurant, The Beef, for a very long time, so it's hard to adjust. Like, not everybody is able to handle change, and I empathize with him because there's been times where I too have had a hard time adjusting to new changes. So yeah, I think the next thing that I want to talk about is the cinematography. Now, as for the cinematography, I don't really want to talk about this for too long because I'm not an expert on cinematography, but I still want to touch on it because I thought that the cinematography in the show was very, very good. Particularly the shots in Copenhagen when, you know, they sent Marcus to Copenhagen. Those shots were so beautiful. Like, it was something about, because I feel like with the shots in Copenhagen, there was a lot of blues. Like, I think that's called like color grading or something. Like, I think that they highlighted the blues in the show. I don't know, because there was this, like, the shots with Marcus on the boat, like, those were so pretty. Like, they were so pretty. But I think that the best shots were in episode 6. I think the best shots were in episode 6. I saw some people on Twitter saying the color grading this season was ugly, especially on episode 6. But I don't think so. In episode 6, they brought out a lot of oranges and reds, and they did that to represent the tension and anger within that episode, because there was a lot going on in that episode. And again, I'm not going to touch too much on the cinematography because I'm not really an expert, but all I can say is that there were a lot of beautiful shots in the show, and I think that a lot of these shots are going to be circulating on apps like Tumblr, so, and rightfully so. So the next thing I want to talk about is, I know I said I wasn't going to break down each episode, but the one, I kind of lied a little bit. The one episode I am going to break down is episode 6, because I just feel like it deserves its own category, because episode 6 was absolutely insane. And I think that episode 6 was the best episode of the entire season. One of the best. Well, no, it was the best. And then I think episode 7 was the second best. So I think that this episode is, and I'm not the first person to say this, and I won't be the last person to say this, but I think that this episode will win the actors a lot of Emmys, because every single person in this episode, even if they had a minor role or small lines, they were acting their butts off. This episode was insane, and I think that out of all of the episodes that I've watched, out of all of the 10 episodes that I've watched this season, this made me feel the most anxious out of all of them. So in episode 6, we kind of learn why Carmy is the way that he is, why he's so traumatized. So we finally get to see his dysfunctional family in action, and we also get to know more about his brother Mikey and a little bit more why he committed suicide. And oh my god, this was a hard watch. Like, there was so much cursing, and then, like I said, the color grading, they brought out a lot of oranges and reds to kind of highlight the chaos and the tension within the episode. Like, there was so many cursing, and I feel like the camera was moving this way and that, so you kind of felt like you were in the house with his family getting cursed out. So yeah, and like I said, I think that a lot of people thought that the color grading in this episode was ugly, but it was purposeful. The episode was very chaotic, and it included a lot of tension. And as for the acting, like I said, everybody was acting their butts off. And I think that everyone in this episode, they did their big one. Like, all of the actors are so convincing as their characters. And like I said, the dialogue felt really real, and you felt like you were in the room with the characters getting cursed out. Like, the whole scene with Mikey and the fork was absolutely insane. That whole scene had me stressed out, because I was thinking that his mother was gonna walk into the dining room, and that he was gonna, like, accidentally take his mother's eye out with a fork or something. And then, so yeah, they have like this whole scene with the fork. He's like, Mikey's throwing the fork at his stepdad because he's mad at his stepdad. Like, they have beef or whatever. And his stepdad is just going in on him, absolutely going in on him. He's calling him a screw up. He's telling him that he's nothing. And if I remember correctly, the stepfather, he keeps telling Mikey, you are nothing. You are nothing. You are nothing. He keeps saying it over and over again. And the actor that plays Mikey, John Bernthal, he's an incredible actor, because you can literally see the switch in his eyes after his stepdad kept on repeating those words, like, before he was cursing out, but he was being kind of cocky, like, you know, oh, I'll beat you up. Like, he's being a tough guy and macho or whatever. But then you see like this switch in his eyes. It's kind of scary. And then I think this is when he jumps at his stepfather. But when he jumps at his stepfather, he kind of like pushes the table in front of him, or he like hits it and like pushes it. Like, that was literally so scary. And when his stepfather was telling him he was nothing, they kept playing the audio over and over again while you were seeing the shift in his eyes. And it was literally so scary. It was almost like you were watching something out of a horror movie. And this is kind of the first time that we have met this character, but you still empathize with the character. You still feel bad for this character. Like, you can see that Mikey has his faults, but you still feel bad for him. Like, I'm not like, because, you know, sometimes when you're watching a show and the character has faults, you're like, oh, he sucks, I don't like him. But it's hard to not, like, it's hard to dislike these characters because they feel like real people. Like, you can kind of see yourself in them, or you can kind of see people you know in your real life in these characters. So it's kind of hard to dislike these characters, because if you don't like them, then you don't like yourself, or you don't like people in your family, like, you know. And everyone is a product of their environment, so sometimes they can't even help it. And I think that kind of leads me into, I think, the person who really stole the show in this episode. Like, but I want to say everyone in this episode were acting their butts off, but I think that Jamie Lee Curtis really stole the show. Like, that woman scared me. I know she's not real, but she really scared me, because she was like, the way she was emoting with her eyes and her body, like, she really embodied the character. And when she yelled, like, there was this one scene where she yelled at Natalie, her daughter, and then I think it was like right after, she yelled at Natalie's cousin or her niece. That really shook me. Like, that scene really shook me, and I felt like she was yelling at me. And you could, I don't know, like, I don't know what else to say. Like, she really ate that. Like, yeah, like, this show really taps into real emotion. And I know that there are people who can relate to these characters, or relate through their relationships with their own families. So you've probably felt what these characters feel at some point in your life. So watching this is very hard to watch, and I wouldn't recommend this show to anybody, because this show can be like really triggering if you've grown up in a dysfunctional household, or household with similar dynamics like this one. So, but yeah, it was still it was really good. Like, I think that's all I have to say about this show. Clearly I enjoyed this season, and I can't wait for the next one. So let me know your thoughts and theories in the comments below, because I'm going to be thinking about this show for a while, so I want to talk about it. So let's talk about it. Anyways, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Bye!